All right, so let's get right into it. When you think of a massive World War II aircraft carrier, what comes to mind? Probably words like history, power, maybe conflict. But what about civics class? Today, we're going to look at how the legendary aircraft carrier Intrepid has taken on one of its most important missions yet, teaching the next generation what it means to be part of a democracy.
Yet you know, this is where the story gets really interesting. The Intrepid Museum isn't just about preserving old hardware. It's using the ship's past to ask some really important questions about our present. They get it. This ship was a mirror, reflecting the nation it served, all its triumphs, its amazing technologies, and yeah, its deep-seated inequalities too.
So this legendary carrier, it has this incredible storied history, but today its mission is completely different. It's now a floating classroom right in New York City. But as you can imagine, that kind of transformation comes with a big challenge. How do you teach something as complex as civics, especially to really young kids?
I mean, really think about that for a second. How do you explain a huge concept like a just society to a 6-year-old? How do you get them to actually care about the rights and responsibilities that come with being in a community? You can't just hand them a textbook. It has to be real, something they can actually see and touch.
So the museum's curriculum, it tackles these big questions head-on. It's all designed to get students thinking about, what holds a community together, what makes it fair, and most importantly, how can they be leaders and the ones who make change happen?
So how do they pull it off? Well, this is the brilliant part. They use the ship itself. See, the Intrepid wasn't just a warship. For the people on board, it was a home, it was a workplace, it was their whole community. They even called it a city at sea. Get this. At any given time, 3,000 people lived and worked on this ship, sometimes for 6 to 9 months straight without touching land. That's the size of a small town. It had everything a community needs to run: kitchens, places to sleep, a medical bay. It even had its own leaders and its own rules. It is the perfect real-world case study.
And here's a perfect example of how they turn a physical space into a lesson. For first graders, they might start in the galley, the ship's enormous kitchens. And the question isn't just what's for dinner. It's how do you make 3,000 people from all over the country feel like they belong? Well, one answer is food. And that simple idea sparks this whole conversation about family recipes, about culture, and about what makes us feel at home.
This really gets to the heart of the museum's whole approach. Every single part of this ship is a learning opportunity. The cramped bunks where the sailors slept, that's a lesson about sharing space and cooperation. The anchor chain room, that's all about teamwork and all the different jobs it takes to make a community run smoothly.
Okay, so let's look at how this builds. In this classroom, the artifacts are not just sitting behind glass. They are the textbook. The actual history of the ship, its crew, and its aircraft, those become the primary sources for learning about civics.
And using primary sources, well, that's absolutely key. It's the difference between just reading about history and actually getting your hands dirty with it. Students aren't just memorizing facts. They're learning how to look at evidence, ask critical questions, and then draw their own conclusions about the past.
Take the Concorde jet, for instance, which is right there at the museum. It's a fantastic tool for teaching complex ideas. On the one hand, it's this incredible symbol of nations cooperating to create something amazing. But on the other hand, it caused huge conflicts over things like noise pollution and its environmental impact. So you've got one object telling two totally different stories about how communities can work together and also clash. And the lessons, they can get really personal and incredibly powerful. The museum tells the story of Alonzo Swan, a black sailor who was a true hero during a kamikaze attack. He was recommended for the Navy Cross, but because of his race, he was given a lesser medal. It took him 50 years of fighting to finally get the recognition he deserved. I mean, what a profound lesson in justice, persistence, and what it takes to change an unfair system. The museum also doesn't back away from other difficult truths. For most of its active history, the community on board the Intrepid was all men. Women were completely barred from serving on combat ships. It was just a rule, a policy that reflected the society of the time.
And when you present a fact like that, it leads to maybe the most important civics question there is. What do you do when a rule is unfair? How do you make things right? This is the kind of question-based learning that really empowers students to see themselves as active participants in society, not just people watching from the sidelines.
And the curriculum for the fourth graders explores exactly that.
They learn that change can happen through official channels, the institutional ways, like passing new laws. But it also happens through non-institutional ways, through advocacy, through protests, and through the pure determination of individuals like Alonzo Swan, who just refuse to accept injustice. What's so cool is how the program connects these huge historical forces right back to the students on lives. One minute they're looking at the A-12 Blackbird, this incredible symbol of the Cold War. The next minute they're asked, okay, if you had to leave home for a year to serve here, what 3 things would you bring to feel at home? And suddenly, a photo of your dog or your family has just as much meaning as a supersonic spy plane. They both tell a story about what we value.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does all this mean? Well, the lessons from the Intrepid aren't just about one ship. They're about something much, much bigger. This whole project is designed to be a model. The Intrepid proves that any historic site, a battlefield, an old factory, a town square, is just packed with stories about community, conflict, leadership, and change. These places aren't just about keeping the past safe, they are powerful, powerful tools for engaging with today and building a better future.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. This isn't just about a museum in New York. It's an invitation for all of us to look at our own communities with fresh eyes. What stories are hiding in the old buildings, the parks, the monuments right where you live? What lessons about democracy are just sitting there waiting to be discovered?